Hello everyone and welcome back to Whisky Wednesday, a slightly more standard run of things in the next couple of weeks for you. We've got some independent, we do have one independent today, but then the rest are more sort of regular bottlings. This is what we are trying to date, as you would have seen on the thumbnail. This is a Secret Orkney, not a Scapa. It is four casks or five? I think it's 5 casks worth of Scapa at 13 years old. Put together by Signatory for their 46% range. Wonderful light colour, and we have it here in the glass too. This is a review of this whiskey, but it's more of a chat about what is happening with Scapa. Where is Scapa? Not geographically, but in the marketplace. So when I first started working in whiskey 10 years ago, Scapa 16 was regularly available. And like with a lot of whiskies with pretty old age statements, it slowly just got phased out to the point where it wasn't around anymore, and bottles were selling. I think I saw 2 bottles sell for £600 as a set once on an auction site. I was like, that's pretty extreme. I'm not against non-age statement whiskies. Some of the oldest whiskies in the world in terms of longevity have been non-age statement since birth. Scapa brought out the Skiren. They brought out another one called the Glancer, I think. Is that the peated one? Yeah, the Glancer's the peated one. So I've got the brown sort of effect on the box. And they're fine, they're perfectly good whiskies. They're available for about £50. But then when you turn to independent stuff, this was so difficult to find. I had to go through 3 or 4 different websites which had totally different tasting notes for this one bottle before one of them just confirmed that it was from Scapa. But I've had Secret Orkney bottlings before, and they're typically more likely to be Highland Park. But this one website, I cannot remember it because they were out of stock of it, so I didn't order it from them. I think I got this from Whisky Exchange or Master and Malt, one of them. It's like, it's a Scapa. It's like, cool, I've not had Scapa in years. I haven't had it at 46%. But even when you go to look for indie ones, it's always very old bottlings of Scapa. It's late 20s, early 30s. Even on their own website, Scapa have some very old vintage whiskey available for about £1,200. They have a 50cl 9-year-old cash strength bourbon. I think they want £95 for it. And I was about that far away from clicking purchase, and I decided not to. Because I was like, why? Why do I want to spend that much money on something I don't really have a good grasp of? Along comes Signatory. This was meant to be more of a ranty video about Scapa, but just where is it? What are Pernod Ricard doing with this distillery? It's a famously historic distillery. Like, yeah, it was closed for a couple of years in the 90s, I think 94 to 97. So, none of us are particularly fussed about mid to late 20-year-old whiskey these days. We're just after like a really cool core expression, something which showcases the distillery. And I don't think the Skiren or the Glancer really do that at all. Peated Scapa as well is like, you have it, that's interesting, but peat for me has never been a particularly strong thing with Scapa. But yeah, I just want to know where it is. Why can't I buy any of it? What are you doing with it? Because of the 1.3 million litres of whiskey that Scapa distills per year, where is it? If your 16 stock runs out, and before they introduced the 16, there was a 14-year-old, and then prior to that, a 12-year-old, all released within sort of the early-ish 2000s, I think. So, okay, if you don't have stock for a 16, even if you drop it down to a 10, that's fine. I'm just looking for something which is a core, regular expression that showcases your distillery character. But nonetheless, I turned to Signatory in this case, and here we have it. This was meant to be like a really long, ranty video, but I just think Scapa is owned by the wrong people. Same goes for Longmorn. They're both owned by Pernod Ricard, and I just don't think they know what they're doing with these distilleries at all. This comes from a personal opinion, as well as an input of my professional opinion as well. There was a rumour, I have no idea if it was ever true, that when Billy Walker was looking around for distilleries before he purchased Glenallachie, apparently Scapa was on the drawing board. And another rumour that followed that was that they were going to do a huge rebrand of Scapa. 2024 may be the year to do it. But nonetheless, the rant is shorter than I thought it would be. Here we have this whiskey. I bought this about 2 weeks ago. It's been open since then. I've had a few little glasses out of it. And it is kind of showcasing to me what I thought Scapa is, was, and will always be, which is this beautifully soft, fragrant style of island whiskey. The nose has all of these really nice almondy, Bakewell tart. For those of you that don't know and have never seen a Bakewell tart, it's like a little pastry case with frangipane in it, so like almond stuff. It's like an almond icing, I suppose, with like a little white layer of royal icing on top and a little cherry. This very much has a cherry Bakewell tart vibe to it. Lots of almonds and sugary stuff. In general, very sweet. There's a powdered sugar note. There's almost like a fresh, out the fryer donut note to it. And some of this tropical flavour that Scapa fans for years have always talked to me about. There's this kind of approach of lime, this like sprinkle of lemon. It's very springy, it's very summery. The smell of it makes me think of like big green fields and, you know, flowers in full bloom. It's got this very green, fresh lightness to it. Let's taste it and see what's going on. As it's bottled at 46%, to contrast all of that. Ooh, that is spicy. That is my first whiskey of the day though. So I'll ignore that kind of over spicy note. The influence and the style of this is lovely. So you get this big warming first sip, feels very oily, nice and thick. It is a non-chill filtered product at 46%. And it leans back into those almondy, frangipane, cherry notes quite well. It's a big wall of just nice, all-encompassing sweetness. Doesn't get overly sweet. If anything, the sweetness begins to fade, and then in comes all of these casks worth of whiskey. I think I'm right with this because it doesn't say single cask on the front of it, and it does say cask numbers. If any of you do follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, I always put numerous thumbnails on those social media sites. But if we can get this to focus, the barrel numbers are just there. I think it's 4 or 5 casks, maybe even 6. All from this particular vintage, 13th of March 2009. This is bottle number 361, so I'd imagine there's quite a lot of stock of this. And then that spicy note aside, because my second sip should be softer, there is this very soft, woody, slightly drying tannic influence running all around. And then that lime thing comes back, that lemon thing comes back. It does kind of really lean into these big citrusy notes that it has. Yeah, not as spicy the second time. It reminds me a lot of Lomond. This particular batch of Scapa. Fruity, slightly earthy with like gingery notes, a fair bit of like nice soft vanilla, but they are ex-bourbon casks, so we should expect that. There isn't what I would call peat in this. I don't know if Scapa do actually peat their whiskey to any level as a standard or just for specific distillations. But there is something that comes across as earthy, but it's more of a like dark chocolate gingery sort of thing. You could even push it into like cacao nib and all that sort of stuff. But it's delicate, it's light, it's got a nice length to it, it's got a nice finish. I will probably end up finishing this bottle before summer gets to us, because it is something I can just pour when I get home whilst I'm cooking or whilst I'm just relaxing in front of the TV, and I can just pour it and not particularly think about it too much. This was £46. That's pretty affordable for a 46% 13-year-old anything, let alone a couple of single casks thrown together by Signatory. And you know, Scapa want you to pay just under £100 for a 9-year-old 63% alcohol 50cl bottle of their distillate. And I'm just like, no, absolutely not. It's a distillery I've not paid attention to for a very long time, probably like 10 years, but trying to find things to talk to all of you about. You know, Scapa was at the top of the list for a long time, and it just, you know, they just weren't affordable in any context. Signatory have changed that. But yeah, this is a plea to anyone who's got quite a lot of money. If you like to buy Scapa from Pernod Ricard and make it good, please do so. Or Pernod Ricard, if you happen to be watching this, just give us like even an 8-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old standard bottling in like first fill bourbon at like 46%. Just give us something that's core and honest and real. Because I'm just so bored with massive conglomerates who are the second best at everything, especially so in Pernod's case, second best selling blend, second best selling single malt, all that kind of thing. And just keeping these distilleries and these liquids a secret. They don't really seem to have any love for these products at all. It's just, you know, it is just numbers on paper for them, which is a true shame. But nonetheless, let's score this. I would give this like a solid 7.5 out of 10. It is a light, fruity, easy drinking whiskey. If you are looking for something that's just sub £50, well, with delivery it would be more than £50, but for just the bottle, below 50 quid, 46%, a couple of good casks put together by a very reliable bottler, this is something you should totally pay attention to. It is an easy sipper. You could give this to any of your friends who come round to your house and they would probably enjoy it in quite a nice way. And yeah, it's just a nice thing to finally get to have on my shelf as a bottle of Scapa. But yes, that is a 7.5 out of 10. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next week. Cheers.